graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
Deviants, welcome to show. I am the Clintoris, and I am here with
the mutated amphibian, the Guch,
and the bioport loving Devo Slack.
Death to the Demon, and we are the Social Deviants, who are here today to talk about a glorious film. Actually, we'll get into it, but it's one of my favorite films of all time, actually.
It really is. Me too.
And that film is eXistenZ. And I will do the thing that...
Capital E, capital Z. What is it? Capital X, capital Z?
Well, I don't... Did they do that for... When Christopher Eccleston said eXistenZ? I feel like the other guy did it when they talked about pilgrimage. So
no, he did it too at the beginning.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's E, capital X, I, S, T, E, and capital
Z.
and you know why they did it like that, right?
No. What? Why?
Because here, let me look this up. I'm going to read this exact thing for you. So, the two producers of the movie are Hungarians, so it's not by chance that the X and the Z of the word eXistenZ are capitalized, since the letters between them make the Hungarian word for Isten, which means God.
Ah.
Oh shit! I never knew that, man. And you know, it's funny because there is a scene where Willem Dafoe is talking about that.
Yeah, I like that. That season.
Yeah, and even still, there's something that Ian Holm is saying when he's working on the pod, and he's speaking Hungarian.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. And that was funny because he even says later on, he's like, my accent was so thick I couldn't even understand myself when I was talking.
Yeah,
I thought that was hilarious.
Like, kaznanum. And it's apparently Hungarian for thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, interesting. Man, that is interesting. I was looking at this right here, and it says Cronenberg is Canadian. It doesn't say that it's a Yeah,
the producers are
Hungarian. Yeah, it says Canadian,
Hámori,
UK, and France.
Robert Lantos.
Production. The movie was released on April 23rd in the Canada and US, April 30th in the UK. So right around, within the next couple of weeks. It's April 12th right now. It's April 12th today. We'll be posting this on April 17th. So it'll be right before this, the anniversary of this film's, the 20th anniversary of this film's release was what takes place. This movie was made for $31 million Canadian, which is $15 million US. So I think
modest.
Yeah. I don't know if Guch trashed the Canadian coin at some point. I believe he did. So
did maybe... I mean, I've trashed the Canadian coin, probably the Australian currency. I'm sure.
And now he's vindicated. It's half the amount. So yeah. But the movie only made $2.9 million.
It's highly underrated.
Complete flop.
Flop. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even think this movie is considered. I mean, I don't think it's revered critically at all.
No, like on when I was reading it on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got like a 70%.
And Ebert,
that's true. Yeah, it says generally positive reviews.
Ebert gave it 3 stars. 3 stars, 3 out of 4. So.
Then
I think the big reason why this is such a flop is because reading here, it came shortly after The Matrix.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they all came at the same time.
Very similar storyline, like jacking into some virtual reality thing. The Matrix had a super high
did it come at the same day?
Ooh,
no.
God, I hope not.
Hold on, I'm checking. They might have come on the same day.
But Matrix, super high action sci-fi. This is more cerebral, sort of bioorganic sci-fi. It's a completely different feel. It's a lot slower than the Matrix. So, I mean,
people might. Well, that's the thing I wanted to talk about. Matrix came out on March 31st. This was April 23rd, so it was a couple weeks later. But yeah, you touched on it, Devo. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Was that I remember when seeing this movie, Matrix came out, and it was like this big thing. Like, damn, sci-fi's here for real. Like all the things that we thought we could see in all these other movies that didn't have the capability. We're starting to see movies like that. This was like on the cusp of Phantom Menace being released, and a couple of the big sci-fi movies, and you were like, man, everything's just coming all at once. And I remember thinking, I got to see this. I got to see Event Horizon, which it was a good movie. It's scary, but like I didn't expect it to be what it was, and so it kind of tripped me out. And this was another movie where I came in thinking it was going to be some sort of sci-fi actioner, and it was anything but.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know about this film until I think a year later, and you let me the DVD. And you're like, here, watch this. I'm like, oh, man, this movie's great.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater, but I remember I had to go to camera theaters to see it because it never even came to the Century Theaters or anything.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, that's weird. Well.
When did you remember first watching it, Devo?
Honestly, I think it was probably when we were living together on Southwest. I think it was one of those movies where I was aware of and I never really got into it, but it was one of those things that you started watching, so I just sat down, and I don't think it was one of those drunken nights, which was plenty. But I can't recall seeing it before that time.
I think when I was thinking back about this movie, I was thinking that this might be the first time I ever saw a David Cronenberg film. And if I had been familiar with David Cronenberg, I would have recognized that eXistenZ was not going to be like The Matrix at all, or mostly any other sci-fi movie you could even think of. But this was the film that actually got me into Cronenberg, and obviously he directed films that all three of us has watched, like Naked Lunch. Have you guys seen a movie called Dead Ringers with Jeremy Irons?
Yes, like long time ago.
I mean, I saw Videodrome and Scanners.
Yeah,
before this movie.
In The Fly.
But at The Fly. But then again, like I didn't know. I mean, this was before the time where I actually cared about who was directing it. It was just movies.
Exactly.
Like I had no idea. I had no idea that David Cronenberg even did this one either. Yeah. Until obviously later on.
Yeah, and when you watch the movie, it's so distinctly David Cronenberg.
Yeah, now that of course.
Yeah. All the little touches, all the little creatures and the disgusting things and the blood and even if you want to look at the story, even the story is like distinctly Cronenberg, to a certain extent. And he wrote it. So, as he writes a lot of his movies. And another guy who writes a lot of his movies is David Lynch, who's also a director that I would say is in a similar space as Cronenberg. And I think that if you want to look at two of the directors who have produced the most, like the strangest, the weirdest films of all time, I think you got to put those two guys on the list, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. For me personally, I think Lynch would kind of top it, only because I'm not as familiar with Cronenberg's sort of library. But at the same time, Naked Lunch is probably the one movie that's made me feel super icky.
When I was a young man, yeah, I did. But now I watched it recently. I'm like, After watching like his other movies, it's like, oh, it is David Cronenberg.
Yeah,
it's just his quorkiness.
Now, as a mature adult, I could probably go back and watch Naked Lunch and be like, okay, yeah, it's gross, but because I remember when we were watching it and like that fool started jerking off his typewriter, I was like, nope, I'm done. It's no, thank
you. This crazy thing about it is like I went back to watch The Fly. I'm like, I think The Fly is way more disturbing than the Naked Lunch, to be honest with you. The fool's like body parts, and it's like. Well, I mean, I don't think of it now.
He's just mutating into a fly, so obviously his human parts would fall off. He's not trying to jerk off a fly or anything.
The way it looks more disturbing. That's just silly. It doesn't make any sense. He's just silly.
Well, that's why it's more disturbing. Turning into a fly because you mutated yourself.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
His ear falls off. Oh, big deal, right? But you've got a typewriter that's talking to you, and you got to jerk it off, and no.
But that's one of the things that I would say like separates these guys is that when you watch a Cronenberg film, a lot of the plot, a lot of the things that are happening, they make a kind of sense. And in some of the David Lynch films, you just are like, I don't know what's happening. Like, the stuff that people are doing and saying doesn't make sense.
He directed one episode of the Friday the 13th, the series.
I saw that.
It's called Faith Healer. So
interesting.
Yeah, I saw his little. I was looking at what he was doing.
So I have a couple questions for you guys before we move on to the casting. The first question I have is that there's this weird dynamic to the story, and we're going to get into the story, but you can write a weird story within a story that doesn't make any sense because the idea is that the plot device is that the story is not kind of supposed to make sense. Because in this particular movie, you have this idea of a poorly written game or a game that's not quite finished being written or conceived or constructed. And so you have these
like alpha or it's beta.
Yeah, you have these like plot points that don't quite make sense and you're not quite understanding the connection between some of the things. But it doesn't mean that the overarching story doesn't make sense because that's just a part of the story. So it's hard to criticize that part of it when it's actually designed to be that way.
Yeah, because it's a story within a story, but then the story within the story is not perfect. So when you are watching the story that's within a story, you're going to get those imperfections.
And it's also going to be one of the things that we talk about when we get to the casting, or maybe even Kim Coppola, is it's going to be really difficult to decipher who is actually acting poorly when it's sort of difficult to, decipher what we're supposed to expect that character to even be doing, especially considering a lot of the characters are actually just like NPCs in a game.
Yeah. When they first not jack into the Matrix, when they first go into eXistenZ and they're talking to the owner of that game shop, and like the dude's like sitting there talking to Jude Law, but Jude Law's not saying anything, so the guy's just like rotating his head and like
yes,
he's like oh,
and
you gotta talk to him, but you gotta say his name so he knows you're talking to him.
Jennifer Jason Leigh's character was like, after he was like, yeah, I don't know about that guy. He was probably got poorly written.
Yeah,
he was
dude,
bland.
you wrote him. That's your fault.
He was like, I was a little bit disappointed. I was like, that's funny.
And wait, so let me get this straight. This is like you're jacking in this game, and this is the first character you have to interact, and he's so poorly written, he's boring. Like that's your fault.
What I'm thinking is that it's a system, so it's kind of making characters of its own.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too. I do think that.
I think that's how it is. So they're trying to work out the kinks of these characters. All right, so this guy's bad. Rework this one in the system, whatever. How do you program a piece of meat? But
I think that's it. It was learning. The more you play it, the more it's learning. The more it gets refined. I think.
So that's why I think that's why it was so bad.
I can appreciate that a little bit more then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, going back to David Lynch, is very difficult to... It's like, have you ever seen a David Lynch movie and thought to yourself, that actor is putting through a poor performance? It's because you can't really gauge what the character is supposed to be doing, so you're assuming that everything the character is doing, even if it looks bad, it's like intentional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're not like normal life situations where we can say, well, a real person wouldn't say that, or that looks bad because a real person might not do that. Well, there's no gauge for any of this stuff.
Yeah.
There's nothing to compare it to. And this movie also is one of those things where you're like, actually, this is some like game character that's poorly written intentionally. So the actor is actually doing a good job making it look like the character is poorly written.
Like when Jude Law, like when he has to say some of the lines that he's compelled to say.
Yeah.
Because his character's meant to say it. Those lines are pretty bad.
Like, we're here because we're supposed to be here.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's actually good acting because he's acting poorly on purpose.
On purpose, exactly.
But what's beautiful about that scene is that Jude Law's character, he's very timid, he's very shy, he doesn't know what to do, and then all of a sudden he kicks into this very aggressive, very strong character, and he's like, we're here because we're supposed to be here. And then he gets right back to his old typical character, like his real person. He's like, I didn't say that. I didn't mean it. I'm so sorry. And like he's apologetic, it's yeah, exactly.
It was great. It was great.
Nah, it was a great film.
But I mean, Jude Law's obviously an amazing actor, of course. So, okay, another question. Another thought was there's this huge emphasis on the phobia of like sterilization or cleanliness, but yet the film not only forces the characters into anything, like into the dirtiest, most grimy, unsanitary situations, but actually the film itself is supposed to almost be unsanitary, grimy, and it's this weird narrative about it, right?
Well, you got Jude Law, who looks like he's a germaphobe type character, right? He's like, he looks like a meek person that doesn't want to really try anything out, although he wants to, but he's never been pushed that far, right? And so he's thrown into the situation where you have this beautiful woman, you're supposed to protect her, she needs your help, that's the base of a lot of stories, but then everything is a shit show at the end, and everything in between. So I agree with you. I mean, you have this duality between Jude Law's character, which is like this ultra clean character, and the whole movie around him is a dirty movie. And everywhere he goes, he has to be filthy, and stuff that he doesn't like to do, he doesn't want to do, stuff that he probably wouldn't be doing if he hadn't ever met Allegra Geller, So but
it's also weird because that's not her real personality. We see that at the very end. He's actually pretending to be that person.
That's what I was going to say. I'm like, it's weird because they're like, Well, I don't.
They were
spoilers in this, by the way, so I don't know.
Well, dude, the movie's
it's 20 years old.
Well, the problem is like we don't know if there's just like people that are like 19, 18 years old that haven't even heard this movie that may like this film.
Yeah, but but watch the movie first before you listen to a review of it.
I agree. I totally agree. Watch this movie. I don't want to fucking.
If this movie came out and it's a week old, then yeah, spoiler alert. This movie's more than 5 years old. No spoiler alert.
No, well. I don't know.
I thought you were Guch. I'm shocked at your consideration and how nice you're trying to be.
No, the problem is
Well, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Wait.
You're ruining your reputation.
I love this movie so much, and I think it's such such an awesome movie to watch that anyone that hasn't watched it, there's been only a few movies that I recommend to everyone. And I love Conan. I think it's my favorite, but I don't recommend that movie to everyone. Because I know everyone won't like it. But this movie, I always recommend this movie to everyone. Always. It's weird. It's kind of scary. It's a little bit gory. It'll make you wondering, like, what the fuck is going on? But at the end, you're like, damn, that's a good fucking film.
Hell yeah.
That's and it's not a guy film at all. It's just a good film. So that's why I say, I'm like, look, if I'm not being myself because I really, really like this film. And I think everyone that's listening should watch this fucking film. So, anyways, so going back to this, that was a spoiler. Now you saw this. At the end, it was whatever. It was the expertise of Allegra Geller and Ted Pikel's ability to create this world.
Yes,
that's what it was. That whole thing, and then the Asian guy at the end was like, "Are you sure we're not still in the game?" Fuck. Who knows? They may not be in the game. They still might be in the game. So
the point was they didn't know. That was the point. Know. And that's what they were. That was their their revolutionary cry.
Exactly. And and the look at the end where they're like, maybe we are still in the game. When they're holding the concept of the poor Asian dude.
That poor bastard.
Anyways,
such poor guy's goddamn face blown off. Last question before we get into the casting. Unless you had something else to say, Devo.
No.
There was a scene where this fool mentioned there were new taste sensations from eating mutant reptiles. So I wanted to ask, if a waiter said that to you, would you partake?
If it was part of my game program, I would. But just life? No, of course. You look at Jennifer Jason Z's character, Allegra Geller. That wasn't part of her programming in the game. She was absolutely disgusted with every single bite that Ted Pikel was taking into the.
Well, he was compelled to.
He was compelled to. He's all, I hate this. It's disgusting. I chomp, 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 chomp. Yeah. That's what he was doing. And that fool took out the bridge and put it in the gun. It's so good. He's like, do you usually have that bridge? I'm like, yo, I have perfect teeth.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great line. No, my teeth are absolutely perfect.
Their teeth are absolutely perfect.
Devo, what would you do?
I would try. To me, it's like when you're trying. I would think of it like if you're trying a piece of sushi that you're not familiar with, and then you're like, it looks kind of gross, but my friend thinks it's okay, or there's something drawing you to at least want to try it. At least try it, right? Like there's not it's not like you have to force yourself to like eat it and like eat the whole thing and enjoy it.
If they would have said amphibian, fine. It's the mutated part which worries me.
Because even when you see the first mutant, like Jude Law is like, what is that? She's like, oh, well, it's a cross between like a frog and crickets or whatever, right?
Well, thought it was a bug.
But that's like all you're eating. You're eating like an amphibious frog with a little bit of salamander.
Though, it's mutated.
Yeah, but for all you know, it could be mutated to be the best thing you ever tasted. Could taste like chicken.
True. I guess you're right. Yeah.
I mean, Guch, there's some worse things you said that you would do to some things than things that might not have been mutated, but even worse. I think you said that you would fuck a zombie. So why would you fuck a zombie but not eat a mutant reptile?
Mutant reptile? Well, as long as you put, it's not like the chick's gonna get pregnant. He's fuck away. You know what? If the zombie virus is sexually transmitted, of course I wouldn't do it.
Well, you never know. You might get cut, fool. You got that rigor mortis in there, fool. You might get cut. It's
like zombie herpes and shit. Yeah, okay, fine. I wouldn't have the zombie herpes. But
For the record, if it's the way that they presented the mutant reptiles was disgusting, but if they presented it in a more attractive way, I might partake.
It was disgusting, and like finding like the
taste sensations,
almost, like the human like bones in there. Oh god,
yeah, that was weird.
That was gloriously Cronenberg.
I love it. I absolutely love it. But if I were to be served that plate and I pull away that gelatinous skin from it, and it was like, oh man, that looks like a human, like a finger bone. I'm like, damn it, I think I just ate someone.
Well, but I mean, you said when we did the Ravenous podcast that you would eat someone.
Oh, I would. Yeah, I mean, but not like served to me in a Chinese restaurant. Did you notice, by the way, in one of the scenes prior to the Chinese restaurant, I think they're in that gaming store. In the background, it's called Chinese restaurant, and it shows a guy there. It's like really scary, like writing, and on the bottom is "Will you survive?"
And it's all like cut up body parts and stuff.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I don't remember seeing that. I'm like,
I
that's
never
awesome.
caught that. Interesting.
Because I think it's Jennifer Jason Leigh's character that stands in front of it for like a beat. Yeah, so you get a good chance to look at it.
Yeah.
And it's like in that typical like font that you see on the side of Chinese takeout boxes.
Yeah, and it's like almost like a horror poster type looking thing too. It's so funny.
Oh shit, I gotta go back and watch that. Okay, let's get into the casting. So the first thing that I noticed was that Christopher Eccleston had a New York accent. Did you guys catch that?
Because he's an actor.
He is. He's a thespian. I love that guy. He's great. He's a great actor. I love him. It was actually a little disappointing.
Baby.
He didn't have more. He should have been in it more.
Yeah, dude. But the thing is, though, again, he has that New York accent, but when he goes back to where he was normally, it's that he's Scottish, whatever. What is he?
Oh, let me look him up.
He's a Scot. Yeah,
he's a Scot. He's like, oh my god, he's this terrible accent. You know, I was
he did
like,
talk like that, though.
But of course he's talking. It's hard to understand that motherfucker.
Because there's one point where like they're doing the beta test or the alpha test or whatever, and then Jude Law like goes up behind him. He's like, I forgot exactly what he said, but he's like, oh yeah, she's a real good game programmer. Like he went from like when he's talking to the group, he's like a New York accent. When he's talking to Jude Law, he's got his natural Scottish accent.
Oh, I think he lost it right there though. But I'm talking about when they once they at the end of the movie where they all start talking to each other in their normal accents. He goes back to that, to his normal accent.
It says here he's born in Langworthy, Salford, Lancashire, England.
Oh, damn.
I have no concept of where that is, of course. It's
wherever.
It's in northern England, though, so it's close to Scotland.
We'll just call him Scottish.
Exactly. I mean, he might not like that, but so be it. Okay, Jude Law in this movie looks young as fuck. Especially since I recently saw him in Captain Marvel, and he looks a little aged. It's a very big contrast.
Well, it's because he was young, dude. It was like, what? I think he was 27 in this film.
And his hairline isn't that bad.
He was 27? You're
27.
So, but you're saying that Jennifer Jason Leigh was 37?
This fool was born in 72 and she was born in 62.
Oh my God. I don't think I caught that.
Yeah, well, I had to look it up. I'm like, because I know Jennifer Jason Leigh from like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, right? And then she was like 18 years old then.
Dude, she's older than Christopher Eccleston.
Oh, there you go.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, she looked great
in this movie. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that was my next question.
I am a JJL fan.
Me too.
Really? Okay.
I've always been a fan of hers.
Talk to me about it, Devo. Talk to me about it.
I will say this: I would allow her to tongue punch my bioport anytime she wanted. Even if she missed and she hit my butthole, no harm, no foul.
Wow, Devo, now that is rarefied. That's prestigious territory right there. Guch. Now, I will say this. I have to say this about Jennifer Jason Leigh. First of all, Jude Law's pants in this movie are super 90s. Super 90s. I don't know if you guys caught that. It's like cargo pants, super loose. Yeah. They look terrible.
Well, the funny thing about it is like it's this, he wears the same stuff over just the way in different ways. So like it's like Jude Law in normal and then Jude Law done up, but it's that same sweater. His
jacket is zipped up.
Yeah, didn't he start off in like some weird like jumper outfit or something? Because he's playing
that was his jacket. That was his jacket. That blue thing that he had on.
Yeah.
But then he had that weird grayish sweater with like the khaki cargo pants with a drawstring.
Yeah, those were weird pants.
They were terrible.
But so back to Jennifer Jason Leigh. There's a scene, the scene where Devo mentioned where the one guy is like his head is spinning around because they haven't addressed him. The way that she's sitting, that is sexy.
Yeah, dude.
She's just like leaning up against that desk or whatever.
Oh my god! And she has that pencil skirt on.
And when she was like, here, put the little bile thing into me, and she like pulls up she had a little waist. Oh man. Oh. That booty was just out, and the waist. That was so sexy.
But he puts the chapstick all around the hole. And he's just staring at it, and he just goes,
dude.
She's like, "What are you doing? Stop!" He's like, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me."
Where he does that. I mean, I think they use that in the trailer, but that scene where he does that is so preposterous. I loved every second of it.
I love it.
The second I saw that, every time I've talked, like I've done this to Clint like 4 or 5 times this entire weekend. Like I'm like, did you tongue out her bioport? Did you lick her bioport? Did you do this to her bioport? Oh, you can lick my bioport. Like it's all been about that. It's hilarious because leading up to that, there's multiple times where Jennifer Jason Leigh is like feeling out Jude Law's bioport, and she like
she's fingering
inside, like, she inserts herself inside of him.
She wants to penetrate him.
Yeah.
And it's funny that he actually mentions that. He's like, I have a fear of being penetrated. I was like, that's an interesting word to use.
Yeah. Like, stop being a pansy.
The fool's like, you know what I mean.
And she's like, no, actually, no, I don't know what you mean.
What you mean exactly?
Because she does like being penetrated. I wrote that down. That was a great line. She's like, no, actually, I don't know what you mean. And then, so there's that. I want to talk. Okay, so first of all, the thing I wanted to say is that I don't find Jennifer Jason Leigh's face attractive, but her body was banging in this movie. But, and I guess you guys do find her face attractive. But
yes, sir.
This bioport thing. Before I get into the last thing, I want to talk about this bioport thing. Or let me save it. Let's talk about Willem Dafoe first. Let's get rid of the cast and then we'll talk about the bioport. Willem Dafoe is fucking amazing.
This fool grovels and starts kissing her feet when he realizes who she is.
Yeah. Oh my god. This dude, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I think this dude is one of the most underrated actors around.
Oh, I agree.
Yes.
He is literally one of the best living actors alive, and no one will ever give him credit for this.
There is not one Willem Dafoe role I have seen that I have been like, that's garbage.
Yeah.
I don't think ever. I don't think ever. No.
I think it's because he's that kind of actor that I think you understand he's supposed to be this weird, crazy kind of guy. So, but like, you look at
like a distinctive look to him for sure, right?
Spider-Man.
Oh,
when
yeah.
He's Norman Osborn, he's perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
He's great. I love him. Everything he's in is perfect. If he's in a movie, you just know it's better because he's in it. I mean, he's in John Wick, for Christ's sake, and he's awesome.
I was shocked when I saw him. Like, oh, damn, Willem Dafoe's in this film? And he's John Wick's friend? I'm like, you can't kill Willem Dafoe.
Well, hopefully he's in the show or something like that. But
that'd be awesome.
We'll talk more about that when we talk about John Wick later. But there's I love it because there's a scene where he's like, I think Jude Law is asking him, why did you put a infected bioport in me or whatever? And Willem Dafoe walks by and smacks Jude Law on the back of the head and says, of course I did. It was how I was hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing. Yeah. Oh my god,
it was so funny.
But Willem Dafoe came up with that. That's not in the script.
Oh, it's not?
Probably not. He probably just smacked him in the back of the head just because it seemed like it was a great thing to do. You know what I mean?
Great thing to do.
And it's so funny too because when he hits him with the bioport and the way like Jude Law just like flies into the chair, he's like, like he just got hit in the butt and he's just got like nutted inside of, just,
Oh my god, that's so horrible. That's such a terrible thing to think. So yeah, I love Willem Dafoe. Just want to say that. And then lastly, Ian Holm. I forgot he was in the movie. There's just a
dude. I completely forgot he was in that movie.
He's good, man. He's just so good. There's just a fidgety bumblingness or something about him that is just so perfect every time.
And the crazy thing about it, he always plays like this. This caring guy, and then all of a sudden, he like turns evil. I'm like, God damn, he does it so perfectly.
Even in From Hell, right? Remember?
I was always expecting that in Fifth Element.
Yeah, me too.
And he didn't though. But
he never did. Yeah, because he plays that role so well.
Well, that's probably what set him up for all these roles, right?
It's a perfect.
Yeah. I love them. Okay, so now I wanted to ask you guys about the bioport thing. So the bioport thing is obviously an allegory or a metaphor for something. I think we all know what it is. But yeah, okay, so that's what I was curious about. Did you think it was an anus, or did you think it or did you think it was a vagina, or what? Because
I always
never really excreted anything.
I always thought it was kind of like a like you're going back to a safe place, right? Supposed to be, you have to be, the world is like a safe place, to enjoy. It's always, and it's connected by an umbilicus or an umbilical cord.
Exactly.
So I always thought that it was an allegory or whatever, something for somehow going back to the womb.
Oh wow,
that's what I thought. I had always thought, but just because the womb is supposed to be a safe place where you were once, I guess you do whatever when you're in the womb, but whatever, a baby is in there. But that's what I always thought.
Yeah, I guess you're right, because you're trapped in there too. Like you're trapped. You can't physically move, but your mind can go anywhere, right?
Exactly. So
and you're being reborn too.
Almost exactly. In that game, you are a different person. You are reborn as a different person. That's how I always thought of it.
What did you think, Devo?
I think Lucho kind of hit it on the head, where it's like I like the idea of being reborn and being just like it's in the Matrix they call it your residual self-image, and I think the idea is that you are seeing yourself in the way that you want to be, like you want to see. And I think Jennifer Jason Leigh even kind of talks about it when they first go into their game, to where she's like, she said something along the lines where it's like you've got a little bit of freedom here, and I think that's basically the idea behind what that's supposed to represent. It's an idea of freedom. Because one thing that I thought was kind of weird, and this could be going in a different segment, but like when you look at Jude Law, he didn't have a bioport, and he's kind of like uptight and a little soft, a little shy and stuff like that. And it's not until he actually gets it and he gets into the game to where he starts to open up, So it's like, it is, I think, a symbol of freedom.
Yeah. But I think one of the things you guys haven't mentioned that I got from this was that the bioport seemed like an erogenous zone, or at least maybe not necessarily, because it did cause the person pain, but it seemed like there was some sort of like Guch, like you guys mentioned, like a release or something like that, or it was or at least the people that saw the bioport, they wanted to finger it, they wanted to lick it, they wanted to do something to it.
Look at Jennifer Jason Leigh when Jude Law first gets his, and she's like rubbing her finger around it, and he's like, "Ugh, stop!" It's like, I don't know if this. All right. I don't know if this has ever happened to you guys, but you're getting a girl's going down on you.
Oh my God, here we go.
And then she's licking your balls, and then all of a sudden that tongue goes in your butthole, and you're like, whoa! At first you're like, whoa! But then all of a sudden you're like, wait, this feels pretty good.
It wants some action. That's what Jason Leigh says. She's
I think that's the idea behind it. And then even when he's looking and when they first go in the game and they're like, oh, do I have a bioport? I didn't even check. Oh, you've got yours. Oh, you got yours. And then Jude Law just starts tonguing it out like he's speaking Japanese on her. God. It's obviously a very erogenous.
No, I agree.
Thing.
It is an erogenous zone too. Because even she says that it's like, oh, it's a little bit tight. Oh, it wants some action.
Yeah,
the port itself wanted some action.
Dude.
She's all, well, I don't want any action. He turns around like a prude.
JGL, you've got any hole you want on my body.
And plus, I think what you mentioned, Devo, was a really good point, because before that he was very uptight. He seemed very asexual. He did not seem interested in anything physical with anyone. Didn't want to be touched in any way. And then the second he gets the thing and gets in the game, all of a sudden they're just all over each other. And obviously, you see, I think. So that's the thing I was always wondering about, is that those two characters, they were very physical once they got to a certain level. And when they came out of the game, they were obviously pretending like they were a couple. And I think that sort of, made people, it would give people the idea that they would be suspicious of them, that they would be going to do what they're about to do. Because you would think that if two people in love, they want to stay alive, or they don't want, their love and so forth. But it made me think that maybe they weren't really in love. Or maybe they were, and like we talked about before, Jude Law was pretending. But it was interesting to see that the second he got the bioport, he really opened up physically.
And both of them changed like their characters once they went into it. Like Jennifer Jason Leigh was like, this homey looking like woman that she was shy, would rather not interact with people. But when she was in eXistenZ, she had like that super sexy skirt.
Oh yeah, she was all about that confidence.
Yeah, exactly. All the confidence, the low cut shirt, just trying to seduce Jude Law's character left and right. Man.
Fingers in his bioport.
And there was also this thing where he was asking about why don't bioports get infected, and she like laughed at him and then opened her mouth, which is like an iconic scene, of course.
Probably the sexiest scene in the movie.
But you know what she's wrong though, right?
Dude, if a chick walks, like if you're talking to a chick and she just opens up her mouth and sticks out her tongue, like what's your first thought? Exactly.
If she brushes her teeth,
doesn't matter. Dude, you brush your teeth. I got something to brush it with, baby.
Hey, there's nothing less sexy as a bitch with bad breath, fool. Because that means you're rubbing your dick on gingivitis, fool.
Oh my god!
Is your dick gingivitis?
Guch, I can think of one more. Guch, I can think of one more thing that's less sexy. It does have to do with scent, though. It's just not with the mouth.
Oh yeah, of course, dude. Well, you know what? Most likely, if they have a bad breath, they're gonna have a bad cooch. Because if they can't take care of their mouth, they're definitely not gonna take care of their undercarriage, fool.
The undercarriage. It's funny that you mentioned that because I was watching Ant-Man the other day, and they talk about the undercarriage. Okay, so now let's talk about the gaming pods. Now they look distinctly Cronenberg and disgusting.
Oh yeah.
But there's a way that she sort of fumbles it, like when she touches it, it's like in order to activate it has to be stimulated, like it's alive.
Dude, when she first turns it on, she like gives it a little flick, like you're flicking.
Like it's a nipple. Yeah. Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, it's definitely sexual.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like when that fool pauses the game and then he has to unpause it, he has to like flick it in a certain way. It's kind of like a circular flick to unpause it on his nub. So I'm like, geez,
it had like nipples.
It did. It didn't have protrusions, that's for sure.
It did.
No.
It did. Yeah. Now, and so so there's this big thing about the idea in this film of organic technology. Yep. And I think that's one of the ways that actually the film veered quite far away from where we're going now. Like we're going more traditional, technology, actually probably making our bodies more cybernetic or whatever than actually making the things that we use more organic. So it's kind of an interesting dichotomy. But I think this idea of organic technology in the film was huge, and it's quite unique. And obviously definitely unique to even Cronenberg in a lot of ways too.
Yeah, because I think the best example is the gun that the assassin pulls out at the beginning of the movie. Like, when he pulled it out, did anybody else think that was like a KFC chicken wing?
No.
Like the way he pulled, like when he pulled it out, like it's just like flesh hanging off this thing. It was just like,
you mean the kid? He pulls out like
he pulls out that gun.
Well, maybe I knew what it was, so it didn't look like a chicken wing to me. But so.
Well, one of the things I was wondering is how would that thing be able to actually propel a bullet, a tooth fast enough to like penetrate your skin?
Right. That's the thing.
It's made of bone. There's no explosion.
I agree. I don't know how it propels it. It's magic. It's movie magic. I don't know.
It's magic.
But did you guys notice when Jude Law was pulling out the tooth from Jennifer Jason Leigh's character? Like a few scenes after, like as it started to heal, where it was healing, it looked like a port. Like there wasn't if you look at it real close, it's like a little. It almost looked like the infected port that Jude Law had. When you guys go back, look at it. It looks very very similar to it.
Good pickup.
And it's obviously showing that these guys are the bad guys. It's really that's what it's showing. It's like, okay, both of them are kind of infected, blah 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 blah, and the dog always. Whenever you see the guns, you see the dog. So
that's true. That's true. That was very. I didn't remember that was Jude Law's dog until the very end, and I was like, damn, I got to go back and watch and figure out all the scenes where the dog is and see what it means.
Every single time you see that gun, or you see a gun like that gun that kills people, the bone gun. You see that dog. And it's, of course, it's a foreshadowing.
It's interesting because when you watch that scene in the Chinese restaurant, the way that they, show the dog getting the bone, it's so overt and seemingly unrelated to the action that's taking place.
Yeah. Well, the dog was like almost waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, it was very calm.
It was very calm. He was just sitting in the corner waiting for all this shit to go down. And then when Jude Law throws the gun down, like the gun itself, because the waiter gets shot in the face once. He gets angry because it misses like anything vital, pulls out the cleaver and chops the gun.
But the gun bled, and I don't understand why the gun would bleed.
I mean, it's organic. It's like a living thing.
Yeah, but the thing is that
it's weird that
they served him a plate. Well, they served him a plate full of stuff that was cooked, and he made it out of that after he ate it. So there should be no organic living thing left in it.
I don't know.
But maybe that's why it was able to propel fast enough to yeah. Maybe that's why it was able to propel the tooth fast enough to penetrate the skin.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's actually like spitting the stuff out. I don't know.
Maybe, but he like cocked it too, though.
Yeah, he did.
The way he cocked it was crazy.
It looks so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, much better than the Asian dude's face when they blew it off. That looked terrible. But it was weird because when I saw that, I was like, is it supposed to be terrible? Was that intentional, or was that just the limitations of the technology that they had for a physical prop? It's hard to tell, right?
I thought they meant it to make it look like that, to be honest with you, because
that's what I thought too.
Again, it's like you could see like it's like the teeth, the Asian guy's teeth, kind of like how everything. Yeah,
it looked like he didn't have a real mouth, right?
He didn't have a real mouth. It looked like you could see like you can see like his half that side was missing, so you could see like a bunch of teeth. His bones were all fucked up, So I thought it would look good.
Well, because the thing is, they had CG, obviously. So they could have put it in there, but they chose not to. They chose a practical effect.
It was a practical effect, yes.
So now, one of the things I was wondering, she was talking about the pod being crippled for life, which is a very interesting way to sort of phrase that idea. So basically, one of the things I wanted to point out was that she said it would be crippled.
Yeah.
Which meant that somehow it would be damaged. And then also she said for life, like as though it was alive.
Yeah.
So does that mean that if you cripple a pod that you have to not destroy it because it's alive?
Ooh, that's interesting.
I don't know. I think
why couldn't she just make another one?
Well, the whole thing was that her system was in that pod. That's what she cared about. That pod was the only that had the only copy of eXistenZ in it. So
which was ridiculous.
The fact that it was still obviously.
That's what she was really cared about. She didn't really give a damn about the pod. I mean, eXistenZ was in that pod.
Yes,
that's what she cared about.
And I think that's the thing is it wasn't that specific. It wasn't the living creature that was that pod. It was the fact that pod had the only copy of her game. And if that pod dies, her game goes with it. And that's the thing, and that's why Willem Dafoe even says something when he's like, "I infected your pod, or I infected your bioport, and I killed your game." So he knew that by infecting it, he's going to kill the game.
And Ian Holm's character did exactly the same thing.
Yep,
but just in a better way.
So, it's funny that so you bring up the thing with Willem Dafoe, and I wanted to say this when he makes the offhand comment, it's not like you can just go to the country gas station to get a bioport, and then they go to the gas station and it actually is called the country gas station. I think that was one of the first moments where I realized that they were distinctly in a game, and you start to understand the dynamic of what's possible in the game. That the game is actually taking the things that you're saying and thinking and manifesting them for you. Yeah, because it would be a brand name, right? It wouldn't just say country gas station.
Yeah, and I think that also had because you earlier you mentioned how what's his name was not a xenophobe but a germaphobe, and that gas station represented everything that a germaphobe would hate. Everything was dirty. The tools he used were dirty. It was just like. If you wanted a clean working space, you do not go to the country gas station.
That was a cool one. It was like, he's all, are those tools clean? I'm like, don't worry about it. The way you put a bioport now, you're not gonna get infected. So then what do you want? What did you get the clean overalls for? He's all, it's peace of mind, my friend.
I love that. That was great. I love that. When she's talking to him about doing it, right? And she has to give him this pep talk about doing it. She says, like, don't you want to open yourself up to the world? Don't be so closed off. And I thought that was, I mean, we talked about this before, about this idea of what the pod means and what the bioport means and everything, and how it's opening up your world or being reborn. But I find that particular statement interesting because it's very ironic, because I think that, in our culture, we think now that playing video games actually closes you off from the world. And what she's trying to argue is that actually video games opens you up to it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was it's just clever writing. That's really what it is. It's clever script writing, because I think that you kind of have to understand the culture of gaming to really get that reference.
And at the same time, you have to figure this movie was written probably 95-ish.
Yeah,
because it was released in 99. So like, you got to think about the idea of what video games were like in the early 90s compared to how they are now. You can make that statement now, and it probably has a little bit more weight to it nowadays, because people play online, like they play Fortnite, for example, right? And they're dedicated just to Fortnite. But back then, in 95, I don't think people were spending as much time playing games as they are now. So it's kind of weird to see how somebody possibly on the outside is looking at the gaming community, how it really was.
And honestly, I think if someone would watch it now, I think it's more pertinent now, this movie, than it was in 95.
I think you're right.
Because I agree.
We are closer to the way that how Transcendence was, the gaming system that that Pilgrimage made, with the hand control, and I'm guessing it read your mind or something to make the game. I'm sure we're a lot closer to that than we are to the way the game had it with bioports and all this other shit. But I think if someone would watch it, like a gamer would watch this movie, I think they'd have a good time watching it, because it's like you said, it from the very beginning, it's they're inside the game.
Yeah.
So, to go back to the pods real quick, I wanted to say that she, we talked about how she calls it alive. She says, I think at one point she calls it a creature. Yeah. But when I can't remember if it short circuited or neural surged or whatever, it looked like there was electricity. It looked like there was electricity in there.
Yeah. And it made it fry.
But when they opened it up, when they finally got to Ian Holm's place and they opened it up, it looked completely organic.
Yeah,
completely.
Yeah, so where was the electricity? Where any of that stuff came from?
Yeah, but I thought it was interesting because he said we've become glorified veterinarians, which was a very interesting quote, I thought. Yeah. And they were saying it has DNA in it, and that when it ports into you power it.
Yeah.
So maybe it was electricity coming from the person. I don't know. It was a very interesting concept, like the way that he figured out the mechanism behind the way the game pod worked. The way everyone described it sounded like he really did some serious planning out of what it would be.
Yeah.
Of course, like we mentioned, she wanted to finger his port, obviously, and everything.
Yes, but please.
And also when she got in the game, her hair was different too. Not just her clothes.
Yeah.
Her hair was
so that's
different.
One thing I read, because there's 3 states, right? So the real life at the very, very end, when her and Jude Law come out and they're about ready to assassinate that fool, her hair is straight. That's supposedly real life. When she's doing when she's going to the country gas station, and before that at the thing, her hair is kind of like half straight and half curly. That's when she's in Transcendence. And then when she's in eXistenZ, it's all completely curly.
Right.
Oh, interesting. But not the first level of it, right? Because the first level of Transcendence was when she was playing the game designer for the people for real.
At the very beginning with Crystal Eccleston? No, her hair was like half curly, half straight.
It's half curly, half straight,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how you know she's in she's in a game.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay. Okay. Now they said that they use frog insides to make the game pods. And obviously you see that at the trout farm. They're like cutting up different pieces and putting them together or sending them aside when he's with Evgeny. And so does that mean that those pods are like zombies or Frankenstein's creatures?
Like abominations?
Yeah.
Possibly.
I mean, they use mutated amphibian parts to create those things. So,
But what about his phone?
His phone must have looked like it too. It looked exactly like one of those things.
Yeah, it was weird. Like his phone, and like it pulled out this white thing, and he like squeezes it, and he's calling like wherever he had to call.
Yeah,
that was weird. But that's the technology of this game. That's cool.
Because it's bioorganic.
Yeah. So now this is the other thing I was wondering. The mutant creatures and like the way that they made the pods, did you think that was actually the way that they really made them in real life, or that was the way they made them in that version of the game?
Well, it was the game. I mean, if we are going by Allegra Geller's hair and she's straight, the transcendence is that helmet and the little hand thing. So it's actually an electronic device. So
I see what you're saying. That's true. That's true.
The bio stuff was part of the game that they made.
So that was never even real.
No, not at all. I mean, they were using a pistol to kill those other dudes too. So
yeah, I want to get into that when we get to Just So Ridiculous. So when they finally go to the level where the Chinese restaurant is, before they get there, they're in their coveralls. But when they start walking to the restaurant, they're in their regular clothes, and they're the only people that are in their regular clothes. Yeah. And then when they come back, they stay in their regular clothes. It was odd, I thought.
Yeah.
Why they made that choice.
So that's one thing that they mentioned where at the very beginning when Jude Law is like, is that like how it is when you go into a game, like how it's like some seamless transition. So maybe it was when they went to that, maybe that was going to a new game or at least a new level to where whatever it was, like they transitioned to a new level. So they had a change of appearance. And maybe that change of appearance was just to accommodate for whatever level they were going to,
But there's a scene where he first sees her in that trout farm and she does a double take like she's an NPC.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
Which was weird because even if she was her, she wouldn't have done the double take thing. She would just been out of character for a moment.
Yeah.
Which I thought was weird.
Unless she was just fucking with him. It could be that. But
I don't know, man.
I thought that was weird too. Like that, because it's when she's like cutting up the things and she talks to him and he brings the little cart.
Yeah.
And she to interact with her, she like grabs one of the little packets and she talks to him.
And then she says it again.
And she said she does she repeats it. I'm like, okay, that's weird. I'd forgot about that.
At that point, I was suspicious if it was her or not.
Yeah, me too. But then I guess
or she was even real. And then he got completely disassociative, delusional, right after that. Because he was saying like he feels like a game character when they were like, but then she like kissed him. Which was weird because she hadn't done that at all in the real world. Like when they first came out of it, when he said eXistenZ just paused and he came out and he's like, I don't know if I'm still dreaming. He was like touching the chair. But at that point, she kissed him, which was the first time she had done it in that level of the game.
Right.
Because there were multiple levels in at that point, right?
Yeah.
Which is funny because that idea was actually used in Inception, of course. This idea of going into multiple levels. When he went to the Chinese restaurant, though, there was a moment that made me feel a little uncomfortable because he says this line. He's like, "Did you hear me, Chinese waiter?" I was like, "Whoa, okay." Like, I guess this movie is 20 years old because that felt old.
Well, I think you mean like the fact that he called him Chinese waiter?
Yeah, like it was so out of place.
I think that was less about being like racist, but more about like, all right, he doesn't know this character's name, but he knows he's a Chinese waiter in this game, so he just called because she even says you've got to refer to him by name. So he's like, if I'm trying to get your attention, I'm gonna call you what I know you, which is Chinese waiter.
Okay, not like
he's. I don't think he's like overtly trying to be racist. Like he's like, like, hey, you Jew, or hey, like he wasn't like, hey, you insert Chinese racist. You who then? "Hey, chino tigre," you know. But he says, like, he just says, "Hey, Chinese waiter," because he's in the Chinese, restaurant.
That makes sense
waiter.
now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Devo. Thank you, because I was bothered by that.
The funny thing, the character name is actually Chinese waiter in the IMDb. So
that poor bastard. Even though he's out, even when he's out at the very end, he's still Chinese waiter. I mean, come on.
It's Chinese waiter. That's the character's name.
Terrible.
Oscars too.
Poor bastard. When he orders a special, everyone gets up and walks off. I thought that was great. I love that. And then when he makes this gun, let's talk about the gun real quick, a little bit more. When he makes the gun, it was almost cyclical, like paradoxical, because they had used that gun in a part of the game that was higher up, and then he made the gun. So you see the genesis of the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so you wonder, like, what was the lifespan of that gun? Where had it been? Because by the time we see it in the very beginning, it's already fully made.
Yeah.
Of course, using different bullets and different teeth and so forth.
Well, that's what they got. So they got creeped out about it. They're like, well, why would this gun that was in the real life be, in this game that we were in, right? And why are you so compelled to make it out of the goo that's on this plate, So, and Jennifer Jason Leigh, of course, was getting all freaked out. And at the end, when it's like he points at her. And
that was I forgot that had happened. That was great.
But
then she talks about that. She talks about that later. She's saying, "I knew at that moment, that you were
the assassin."
Yeah, and it's funny because she even says, but I think even before that, she says she gets very upset because she's like, "I should have seen this." The infected bioport that poisoned the game or made it give a disease.
Yeah.
She was saying that the game was suggesting to her what was wrong with it.
Yeah.
That having the theme of being infected and all this at different levels of the game was saying that it was actually the thing that it was telling her that. But I thought it was interesting because what if they had stopped the game at the level where before in the second level, maybe when he paused it and they never went back? I mean, I was obviously still in pilgrimage at that point.
That's not the. The problem
would
is
it have had the same problem?
And no, the thing is though, is that since they were running the game at that point, it was everything that was supposed to happen in that game was happening in that game. It was being manipulated and turned to what people were viewing it as but like the characters themselves. So in pilgrimage or in transcendence. Everything that happened was happening in the way that it was supposed to happen, right? With with the characters and all this. The only thing that was different was that the theme of that game, the Transcendence game, which theme is they were trying to kill Allegra Geller.
Yeah,
and in the game of the game, inside the game, it was they're trying to kill the little pod thing, right? And Allegra Geller. So the whole thing was that it was the guy was right. The Evgeny, whatever his name is, was right.
The real guy.
The real guy. He was right.
worried.
Like, he was worried, and rightfully so.
Yeah, because they planted that idea, that theme.
Yeah, those themes. So the themes of like the killing of and it kind of like rolled with it. That theme of of the assassination.
Yeah, so they determined it. I mean, that's one of the things. I have a quote that she says that basically says that type of thing. Like, you don't know why you're playing the game until you play the game.
Exactly.
And, she obviously, I mean, of course she was suspicious because he didn't have a bioport, like, why would he not have one and then be in that position and everything? And he was a spy and all this stuff. But I thought it was, and I mean, first of all, I thought it was a little odd. I mean, the goal of the game they made to kill everyone. And then that's what they did when they came out of the game.
Yeah.
But I almost laughed because the scene where he realizes she put the bomb in his bioport. I don't know. I just thought it was funny. What did you guys think of that?
It's very Bondish.
Yeah.
It's very like, is there very 007ish was like, oh, but I knew all the time that you were the evil
exactly
the master.
Yep.
Now. Exactly.
But again, I don't know if honestly the acting at that point with that what they're doing is actually kind of poor. But then again, it's the character that she's playing within the game that says those things, right? And
exactly.
So
and there was an interesting little point where they were talking about how Jude Law was saying how could he possibly beat her in the game if she's the one that designed it? And obviously she did end up beating him in the game, but she wasn't the designer.
No, not at all. Yeah.
And the guy who designed the game wasn't even a factor of winning the game. He was like a big character. So I thought that was interesting that they have this idea that the person who designed the game is not the person who's trying to, navigate the game as a main character. He's just and he was one of the characters that sort of led her along, right? He becomes this facilitator character.
Yeah.
And you could see that at the end of the game, a lot of the people that were facilitator characters didn't particularly care for their role in it. So it seems like an interesting game because you're going to have like 10 people playing the game, but majority of them won't even be main characters.
Mm-hmm. And they were like, I guess the other guys were just viewing the game, like kind of like how we were at the end once they died.
I'm guessing, yeah,
because they all knew what happened.
Yeah.
So that was make me dubious about how successful a game like that would be. You would probably just want one or two people and then all NPCs, right?
Well, the crazy thing about it is like they were saying that they were only in there about for 20 minutes, and for them it was like a couple days.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and then I thought it was interesting because, and we can talk about this too, when they were talking about how the reason why they wanted to kill Evgeny, whatever his name was because they were saying all the harm he's done to the human race, and he was looking at him like, I haven't done anything. But they said it was the most effective form of warping human reality. And so obviously you see that at the very end, right?
Right.
People are unsure whether it's real or not. And so I was interested to see when you guys think of how did they know what the game was, that would be the outcome, and that he seemed so surprised by it and everyone else did. Were people just unaware that people thought that what they were doing was destroying human reality?
Well, I know that they always like Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jude Law's characters, because between their banter, like the first time when they go to the ski lodge at first, right? And here's a way of like destroying the reality of humans, right? Because people ski, they like to ski. They go out to a lodge and they take their skis and whatnot, pay the price, and go down some snow. Jude Law says, "What if someone actually wants to come up here and ski?" Yeah. And Jennifer Jason Leigh says, "Come on, Pikel, no one skis anymore."
Yeah.
And that's a way of destroying human reality. When you take away, like, when they don't have to go anywhere, they just sit in a room and they can do or be whatever they want to be. And honestly, that's the way, but it probably does a lot of harm. I'm sure that's what they were alluding to.
Right.
And stuff they even say like death to realism, which is not a death to reality. It's actually the opposite. It's saying
exactly,
we don't want realistic things. We want reality.
Yeah, we want reality.
Okay, so last question I have for you guys.
Before we do the question, can I take a break? I have to go to the bathroom super bad.
Absolutely.
Right. Be right back.
My last question before we move is just so ridiculous. We're running a little long here, but we love this movie, so we're going to plow through it. I was talking with someone because I was watching Westworld, and I was asking them, if you fuck a robot, is it cheating? And we're not going to answer that question, but the question I do want to ask you is, if we fuck someone in the game, is it cheating?
I personally don't think so. Now, okay, so here's the thing. If you're using it as an escape because you hate your partner, I think you have deeper problems than just cheating, I guess. But I don't think so, because is texting someone? I don't know, dude.
Let's put it this way: if you were jerking off to porn, is that cheating?
Not if your lady thinks it's okay.
Yeah, not if your lady thinks it's okay.
If she doesn't, if she specifically tells you she doesn't like it, I don't know if it's cheating, but definitely hurting her.
Yeah.
Then that's different than cheating. So, that's an
emotional. The problem is with
emotional abuse.
This type of game is that, like, since it's so realistic, you can actually start fooling yourself into, like, you would rather spend time with the person that's in the game than you would with your wife or your significant other.
Right. But
so it's
again,
not,
it's an emotional state. It's a state in your mind.
It's not like you're porn is a little bit different. You can whack off and that's it. You kind of know that you're not gonna you spend any time with these other people.
So but imagine this.
Speak for yourself,
like imagine if I'm sitting here, I'm just thinking about Scarlett Johansson the entire time. Like if I'm in my own time and I'm thinking of Scarlett Johansson, am I cheating on my wife?
No, I don't think so. But it's a little bit different. We're talking about like literally you would rather let's say if you have a Scarlett Johansson virtual reality game that literally it's like you're almost there with her all the time,
like holodeck type shit.
Yeah, exactly. And would you rather spend time with her and then not spend time with your significant other? I think that's when it starts everywhere.
But I don't think that's cheating. I think that's something else. That's what I'm trying to get at. Because cheating to me is you are physically with another human being, and so like say like you've got a significant other, but you would rather play World of Warcraft. Are you cheating on your partner with World of Warcraft?
I think it's a little bit different. It's not really. Well,
I mean, maybe maybe it's different for me because I'm I'm in a different situation.
Well, I mean, if my significant other would want to go watch would rather go watch like theater, no, I'd let her go watch theater.
And you go to watch Predators. I mean, you're cheating on her with Predator. No. Right. So that's the concept I'm trying to get at. That's the concept I'm trying to get at is if you are physical with this person, I think that is, yes, cheating. But if you are going into a mindset, into a video game, like if you go into like, I don't know, Mass Effect 3 and you go to bang this character, you're playing your NPC, your main character, and you are actively trying to pursue a relationship with this character in the game. That's not a form of cheating. No, that's how I see it in eXistenZ as well. But one thing you mentioned is that if you are constantly going in there and you are avoiding your spouse, that might not necessarily. I don't see that as cheating. I see that as a different form of neglect, a different form of it's some sort of different disorder. It's not necessarily cheating. Well, for me, cheating is where you are in a relationship with somebody and you are pursuing another relationship outside of your current relationship with a physical being.
Yeah. Well, I think what they've been calling it is emotional affair. I think that's kind of the operative term right now for like, especially people that like have people that they meet online. That they never meet in person, but they have like an emotional affair with them, even though they never met each other, or maybe even talk. They don't even talk sexually, Yeah,
so, I don't. It's a lot of cutting hairs. I agree with you, Devo.
Well, that's something that human beings are going to have to address when virtual reality becomes a
physical, thing. But with this virtual reality stuff, where you can just like kind of forget yourself and everything around you, and would rather live in that world with this person. Honestly, I think there's something way deeper. With an emotional connection with you and your significant other, obviously there's something wrong there.
Yeah, but I think this is the same thing that people might have said 50 or 100 years ago if you told them about the idea of texting. It's just words. You see what I'm saying?
Well, it depends on the words. I mean, you're like fucking texting someone about fucking them. I'm like something seriously up.
Yeah, I get that. But like, what I'm saying is that
dick.
Yeah, something seriously
I get that
up.
part of it, but I'm saying like it's the same thing. Like we are looking at that from a different prism, a prism where this thing doesn't exist. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, the whole thing about, I suppose, yeah.
And so we don't know how it's going to manifest in people and change their, the way they conduct themselves and everything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's get to It's Just So Ridiculous. I'll let you guys go first.
Where do I start? I already talked about the KFC gun, and like, I get the idea that you're looking for an organic weapon to get through security. And you're trying to assassinate somebody, but like, is it really like a gun made out of flesh and bone, and you're gonna like projectile teeth out of somebody? And like, even still, like when all was said and done, like Jude Law's looking, he's like, "Oh look, this one has cavities."
Yeah, it does.
I don't know if you can continue on, Devo.
No, go ahead.
Well, the thing is, though, for me, is that like it's not really. I play a lot of games, and a lot of shit in games is ridiculous. It doesn't make no fucking sense, right? That I looked at it through those eyes with everything that's happening within the eXistenZ. So the whole thing about why is this gun working? It's game mechanics. Fuck, I don't know.
Right.
So I can't take that as such ridiculous. Some of the acting though because a lot of the gaming acting is bad. Just in this game, when he goes off goes into the characters they play, it is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just because that's the mechanism of it. It's supposed to be ridiculous, right? Like when the Chinese character, God, when he talks, is so bad. The Chinese waiter,
yeah,
it's like so overtly like almost racist the way he's Chinese, like it's so Chinese the way he talks. I thought it was. I mean, even when the first time I watched it, I'm like, damn, I know a lot of Chinese people. They don't talk like this shit. Just like it's ridiculous. Way he talks.
It was the projection of a Chinese person inside a white person's head, right?
Absolutely right.
Yep.
So I think those parts of the whole movie are the most ridiculous parts of the film. And every single time they yelled death to whoever it was going to be.
Death to Smoochie.
You might as well have been death to Smoochie at that point. Either Demon Nass, Allegra Geller, Demon Ted Peichel, and Demon Evgeny, whatever. Those are my parts. Sorry, Dio, I didn't mean to put it in.
Another thing too is I had to look up and see who wrote the story, not realizing it was written strictly by David Cronenberg. But at the very beginning, when they're doing that whole, Christopher Eccleston called it a seminar, a gaming seminar. And then he was choosing people in the crowd who's going to play the game and blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
one more thing.
Okay, obviously this guy did not do any research on what the actual gaming industry is.
Yeah.
He doesn't realize that they do focus groups. Like maybe he understood they did focus groups because that's essentially what that was. I don't know why they were meeting in a church to be able to do that. But there's definitely no security that you're going to find in a focus group. And the way that he announced, he's like, you are going to be part of the eXistenZ like first seminar or something like that. And it was like, they weren't using the right verbiage. It wasn't set up like you would a normal focus group to test out this game. And it was, to me, it was very poorly handled. And I don't know if that's just me like taking the fiction out of the science part of it, but being in the game industry, that kind of made me a little unsettled.
The only thing that really bothered me about it was that, but maybe this comes down to what they're talking about, like, you know, destroying humanity in reality, was the focus group or the seminar or the people there. They really didn't look like gamers, to be honest with you.
No,
they were like old men, old women.
Yeah, they're all. I'm like, these people. But then again, if you're using a game to or this, it's not even a game at this time. It's a system to escape from reality. Then you would get a lot of different people's walks of life, right? So that's the only way I excuse it.
I don't think so, Guch.
I know. I agree. Wait. That's the only way I could use to as an excuse to the reason why they're there. That was the only way. Otherwise, that bothered the hell out of me. Like, the only guy that looked like it was a gamer was the guy that brought his own the thing, that the bio thing. He's the only guy that looked like a gamer in that motherfucker. Everyone else looked like normal people. It's like, these people never played a fucking game.
Yeah, I hate this. I'm not going to be ageist, but there was a lot of old people.
There was way too many old people
that probably wouldn't know how to play a game in the first place.
Exactly.
Or definitely not a game like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, it's still in eXistenZ. But the people that when they came out were still the same people.
Yeah.
So it was very odd. And I was thinking to myself, okay, so there's like 100 people there, 50 people. And 10 of them got to play the game. So the other people were just supposed to sit there and watch them for 20 minutes, or they're supposed to rotate, or what was the deal?
No, because even Jude Law, when that dude comes in and like he's super late and he's got the pod and he's going to kill what's her name, Jude Law says, "Oh, you could be part of wave 2." And even Crystal X is like, "We're going to select wave 1." So there's the expectation that there's multiple waves, and even Jennifer Jason Leigh is like, "Well, how long are we expecting this to take? Like 2 or 3 hours?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And it ended up being 20 minutes. Why did the organizers of the event have a bunch of guns? That seemed odd.
For safety, I guess. I don't know, because she's apparently the most popular, most celebritized game designer in the world.
Hey, man, when it's something to control humans, of course people are going to want it. And that's what this is. It's a device that controls humanity. And whoever controls that, controls them. So, of course they're going to be protecting it.
And okay, so when they were in the country gas station, she went bonkers on Jude Law because he neural surged supposedly. She's like, I trusted you and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, if that was a possibility, why didn't she jack into the game Willem Dafoe? If it was a possibility that there would be a neural surge, like someone who presumably was experienced. I'm assuming it's because she didn't trust him, which in the end turned out to be a good choice. But so she trusts a guy that never played a game ever in his life?
Yeah.
Yeah. The plot holes.
And another thing too is he's running security and they run off and she's like, oh, like she was asking him like who you are, what do you do, whatever. And he's like, oh, like I'm a marketing intern or like I'm in marketing. And she's like, oh, you're a PR dweeb, right? But as they are continuing on through the story, this fool who's supposed to be a marketing person knows nothing about eXistenZ, knows nothing about gaming. He doesn't have a pod. He's never played the games before. He's like the exact opposite of what you would want as a marketer who knows nothing about the product. That was, to me, completely ridiculous.
Well, it's part of the plot of the game. It's kind of a clue to tell you that he really doesn't belong there. That's actually a clue and a half for you to say, okay, this guy's probably one of the main, is probably a hidden assassin, hidden antagonist. Why? You're
probably right.
Why
exactly?
But that's a clue. It's like, why is this person that doesn't belong there, doesn't know what he's doing, is pretty much a plant there just for no fucking reason? Okay, shit, this guy's probably dirty, type of thing. I think problem is I've seen it through games' eyes. There's been a lot of games that play that way, and the more I watched eXistenZ, I'm like, damn, this really is that. That's really just. I mean, with the plot holes, what game doesn't have fucking plot holes, right? What movie doesn't have plot holes? It's plot holes within plot holes within plot holes is weird. So
it's kind of almost it's so weird that it becomes almost accurate.
Exactly,
which is weird in of itself.
It's Cronenberg, so it's kind of like okay. That's why I love this film. I absolutely love it because even the plot holes kind of like make almost sense.
They do almost.
Yeah.
Except for the old people, I still don't understand that.
Yeah, but, I don't understand the old people.
If they could get to Ian Holm's spot from the country gas station, where it presumably is much safer to get the procedure done, why did they even bother going to the gas station? Why not just go directly to Ian Holm's place?
It's levels, like how Devo was calling them. It's just you go to one place in an adventure game, you do what you need to do there. Everything happens, and then you move on to the next location.
Exactly.
And the next location was that. Why the hell was there like guys in like Vietnam era like clothing part of the revolution? It makes no fucking sense, but it was so good it don't make any sense.
Okay, last one. When this fool cuts her the cord, when she hacks into it in the trout farm when they go back, this fool like cuts the cord, drops it, and just lets her bleed out. And then he picks it up 30, 40, a minute later. I was like, she lost like a lot of blood during that time. Why did you drop it? That was a little weird, but
I agree. I'm like, he's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. I'm like,
I was like, don't drop the cord.
Yeah, you just cut the umbilical cord, man.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that. Okay, so Devo, the floor is yours, my friend.
So now we come to my personal favorite part of the show, where we honor the best, worst actor of the movie. And this is an actor who can spend a lot of time on the screen or a little bit just to make you squeam. Lucho, who is your vote for the Kim Coppola Award?
Oh, man, this one was tough because it's hard to differentiate their character that was within eXistenZ being as the bad character to when they're actually, acting badly, right? I would. The problem is the Chinese get so over the top. I can't. I was gonna give it to him, but I'm gonna have to give it to the guy who played Evgeny Nurish.
That's an interesting name, Nurish.
Yeah,
and even the way they spell it is like the way you say Nurish.
Nurish, yeah. So kind of weird. Because like that, even his accent, that pseudo Russian Hungarian accent, it was a really bad accent.
But he didn't have it.
No, it was some dude. It was exactly, but
he's Canadian.
He is Canadian, so I'm gonna have to give it to him. I thought his character was kind of bad. So,
all right. the Clintoris. Who's your vote for the Kim Coppola Award?
So originally I thought, just like Guch did, the Chinese waiter Oscar Sue, but I actually think he's so bad that he's good, and he actually delivers one of the best lines in the movie. Like the most important line in the movie, he delivers it when he says, "Are we still in the game?"
And he delivered it fine there. That's the thing. He's just like a normal person.
So I think the guy that I'm going to choose is Callum Keith Rennie, who played Hugo Carla, because I think when he came into the scene where he has the gun and he's just shooting everything up, I know he's supposed to act terribly, but I feel like he still could have done a little bit better. And I feel bad because that guy, this Callum Keith Rennie, I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. He's like a character actor, and he is good. It's just there's some weird thing about the way he acts in this movie that I feel like he could have done better. And it's
damn, I totally forgot about that guy.
I'm not saying that he is bad. I'm just saying, like, if I'm trying to pick between all these awesome actors that are in this movie, just one right after the next, I gotta take him.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So for me, that is my choice is somebody whose acting was very stoic and very stiff, very just like talking out of the side of their mouth. Every line they delivered did not convince me. Very boring.
I know what you're thinking.
And it was just like, and even some of the things that they said was just like, okay, you're supposed to be this person, but what you're saying does not match up with that. So for my choice, it is going to be Jennifer Jason Leigh as Allegra Gallagher.
Wow. I thought you were going for Darcy Nader.
Me too.
Nope.
That was that.
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Every time I looked at her, I was amazed. But every time I watched what she was doing and I listened to the role, I was just like, I cannot stand this. This is not good for me.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
I'm shocked.
I'm stunned by that choice.
Wow. All right.
Guch, you gotta pick a second one.
I totally forgot about that Callum Keith Rennie guy. You're right. He did a terrible job. He had the line was like, "What's your name?" Like they asked him what his name was, right? And he's not here. He's in the back, right? I'm like, okay, who the fucking answers that? And then when they take him back and he's talking about the gun, he does a terrible job in there. It's like he's supposed to show some sort of emotion. I know, like, again, I know it's supposed to be like maybe the character in the game, but even the character in the game, that was poorly done for a character, like for a character in a game, right? So I would have to go with that guy.
Clintoris?
Oh, man, I didn't think of Jennifer Jason Leigh. I didn't notice her being bad. I felt like she kind of.
I didn't think she was as bad.
And so among the other two, I guess I'll have to pick Don McKellar as Evgeny Nurish, even though I thought he actually was okay. But I feel like Jennifer Jason Leigh, I thought was still better than him.
Yeah. All right, Devo. So
because he is a Battlestar Galactica alumni, I am going to go with Callum Keith Rennie as Hugo Carla. The dude is awesome. He's fucking awesome in Battlestar Galactica.
He is. That's why I felt so guilty.
But I have to agree with everything you said about this guy in the movie. He was just like, it's
bad.
Not a staple of his career, but it's, for me, this is more of an ironic nomination because I adore this man. I think he has done very well in his career, and it's just one single unfortunate mistake.
Well,
there you go.
Announce him, Devo.
The winner of the Kim Coppola Award for eXistenZ is Callum Keith Rennie as Hugo Carla.
A great actor, but
congratulations.
A
forgettable performance.
Yeah, forgettable. Definitely a little fall from grace in this movie.
So, did you guys have any repeatable quotes? Deviantly repeatable quotes?
I think we said a lot of them while we
did say a lot. I have some more, but yeah. Do you guys have any others that you haven't mentioned yet?
Nothing that really stands out. Nothing that I can remember to repeat, but there's like things that I could see in my mind, like when Jude Law is getting his port for the first time. A lot of stuff that he says is just like, like, oh, is it safe? That sort of thing. it's weird. Like, this is not a movie that I like. When I watch, I'm like, yeah, like I'm gonna repeat this in everyday life or anything, you know.
Stop it! You're just talking about bioports all day for the last week.
Okay, well, that's the action, you know, the action of licking and fingering a bioport. Nobody once says anything about penetrating a bioport, although I'll take that back. When Jude Law says, I don't like to be penetrated.
I have this phobia about having my body penetrated.
Yes, that was hilarious.
And he's like, you know what I mean? And she's like, no, I don't think I do. Like we talked about before. I'm like, of course she doesn't. She likes the D.
She was great.
I loved her. She was like so cynical. Like,
I know. That's why I couldn't pick her.
Yeah, I couldn't pick her. Like, whenever Ted Beck was like, he wanted to kill you. That's two people in one day that actually wanted to kill you. And she's like, yeah, I've never been more popular. It's like so cynical. I love it. I just love that type of the way she reacts to everything is so funny.
Do you have any? Okay, so I'll go through my quotes that I had. I love Willem Dafoe when he's talking about the art god game.
Oh yeah, so good.
And he's like, God the artist, God the mechanic. I was like, this fucking guy. I love that whole little thing. And then he says, when he's talking to Jude Law before he gives him the bioport, he's like, I haven't crippled anyone yet. And then Jude Law is like, how many have you done? He's like, 3. Well, you'll be my 3rd.
Yeah.
I just love that, the way he says it. And then, of course, there's an iconic line that Jennifer Jason Leigh asks him quite a few times is, are you friendly or are you not?
Yeah.
And I know they use that in the trailer and so forth. And then when Jude Law says, eXistenZ is paused, I forgot that happened.
Yeah, it looks so fun.
It was a little stunt. It was a little jolting to see it, you know? And then he said, Jude Law has a line where he's like, free will is obviously not a big factor in this little world of ours. And then she responds to him and she's like, it's like real life, just enough to make it interesting, which I thought was a great line.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm skipping the stuff that we already mentioned. And then he says, when he almost gets killed, I think, so when he kills the guy, she's like, what the fuck are you doing? You killed him. You going to kill me next? Which was a good line because she does.
She does.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, he's like, tell me the truth. Are we still in the game?
Yeah, that was so good.
Do you think so? Do you think that they were still in the game?
Well,
I say no.
Yeah, according to this trivia, it's not. But
I don't think it was either. But I don't think that was the point. I think the point was that they couldn't tell whether
they couldn't tell.
Anymore.
They were like losing their reality. That's the thing. It was so realistic to them being in the game. They couldn't tell anymore. I agree.
So, do you guys think this needs to be remade?
I don't think so. Because I like I said, I think it's more pertinent to, or more people can find this more useful watching this movie now than they did back in 1999. To be honest with you, just the way things going.
Yeah.
I think it's done great. To be honest with you,
I do too. I think I could see a show maybe.
Yeah.
If you want to use that world.
Yeah, I feel that Cronenberg can only do justice for this movie like Van der Hoeven can do justice for RoboCop. You watch every RoboCop that Van der Hoeven hasn't done, it's a completely different experience. Mm-hmm. Now, don't get me wrong, the RoboCop remake I really, really enjoyed, but it's not the RoboCop. The RoboCop has that cheesy 80s feel to it that only Van der Hoeven has done with, Starship Troopers. And I feel that eXistenZ is a Cronenberg movie. You try to remake it, it's not going to have that same bioorganic creepiness that I think somebody else would attempt to do so well.
All right, fellas, let's wrap it up here. Let's give our deviant worthiness, give our takes, our numbers, and before we get up out of here.
Guch, what's your score?
Mine's going to be an 8.5. It is a great film. Obviously not perfect. It may not be for everybody, but this film, because there's some films that I would rather, like if you put two films together, I would rather watch the other film. But this is one of those films, like I said before, this is one of those films where I always tell people to watch it. Doesn't matter what type of person they are, just watch it because it's not really scary. I mean, there's a little bit of violence. It's okay, that's fine. A little bit of gore, but it's not enough to where it's like it'll scare someone out to death. It just at the end you feel like okay, what did I just watch? I may have to watch it again to fully understand it. And when a movie's left you feeling like okay, I like the film, but I want to watch it more to understand it more. I think it's a great film. It's an 8.5, not perfect, not a 9 out of 10, but 8.5 is a great, strong film for it. I love it. Go watch it.
I'm going to have to say I do have it as a 9 out of 10, maybe 9. I might even have 9.5 out of 10. I think there's just a couple little things that prevent it from being a perfect movie. But I love this movie, and honestly, after I finished watching, I was like, man, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's still just as amazing now as it was then.
I agree.
And like we discussed, maybe even more socially pertinent than it was before. The ending is astounding, and I loved it. And it's like I said, it's one of those movies where it's really hard to find someone because you're not entirely sure whether the person is just acting bad or the character is intended to be that way. And I really love it. Only thing I can find with it is the little nitpicky things that we talked about already. But if it wasn't for those things, it might be a 10.
So, watching this movie for the second time, probably the third time, it didn't hit me as much, and I don't even know how to say this, but it didn't give me the same feeling that when I first saw the movie. It was, to me, slow. Being in the game industry for so long and just being connected with how games are made, the whole life cycle of the whole gaming thing. This was completely way off basis. The acting, you've got Jude Law, you've got a bit part with Willem Dafoe, you got a bit part with Ian Holm, bit part with Chris Eccleston. It was just, it wasn't top notch for me. And when I was watching this movie, I don't know if I'm just in a weird state of mind now, but I just didn't have that same enjoyable sensation. So I got to give it a 5.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough.
Whew. Man, Devo is definitely a harsh critic.
Yeah, he really is.
But hey,
maybe.
No, hey, man, that's what you thought. So, I respect it. So until next week, same Deviant channel, same Deviant podcast channel, same Deviant time.
Yes.
Signing off. I am the Clintoris, and I've been here with
the Guch
and the Devo Crack,
and we are the Social Deviants.
See you.
Laters.